Hello everyone, how are we? Can you all hear me okay? I hope you can. There's a few people here, so it'd be lovely to know if you can hear me or not before I continue. Okay, let's have a see. Who do we have? Looks like, is my microphone working? I'm not sure my microphone's working. Let me just check. Oh no, it is. It is working. Loud and clear. Perfect. Great. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, Jill and Lorraine. Sound is fine. Brilliant. Thank you, Mum. That's good. Okay, welcome. Hello. Lovely to have you back again on this another sunny afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. And what I'm doing with you today, I thought I'm just looking at the light in the camera, actually. It needs to be a bit brighter. Hopefully you can see that okay. But I thought I'd work with the pick of the week. I don't know how many of you have got the email from Lisa or noticed on the website, but the pick of the week is going back and looking at the release with Spellbinders with the layered iris. I'm not Irish. That's because I live in Ireland. And the layered iris and all the accompanying dies that came with that. Now, what also was in that same release was the layered anemone as well. We've had videos done with this one too, and we've also had the woven lattice texture that you can see here, and we've also got this die set which gives us the hello and all the stamps on this set also. On this set also. But what I'm working with today are these three sets, and I thought what I'd try and do is incorporate one of Lisa's new layering stencil sets as well, which is the Wildflowers. So you would have seen Lisa last Wednesday on her broadcast show from her studio, actually, her own very own studio, where she would have launched the Wildflowers with us. So I've used that in the background there. So who have we got? Hi Maddie, hi Hope, Sandra. Oh, we've got lots of names I recognise. Got Beverly. Are you crafting along with me today, Beverly? I loved what Beverly done. I don't know if you noticed in the Facebook group, Beverly posted a card with the new, I can't think what it's called. Is it the pebble window? But basically she's made an arch or a bridge with a pebble window, and it's reflected in water. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So if you get a chance to go on the Facebook group and have a look at that, then that's definitely worth a look. So hopefully you're crafting along with me today as well, Beverly. Okay, so what I thought I'd do today, as I say, is I'd talk you through the layered iris again, and I'll die cut this and show you how. Oh, brilliant. Thought you might be, Beverly. I'll talk you through how the iris is actually made up, because it is a layering die set. And if I just bring in those dies for you, this is the set that you get for the iris here. You get quite a lot of dies. It's quite straightforward to actually build if you just follow the crib picture on the packaging there. But I'll show you how I go through colouring it. Now I've coloured this, and I'll be doing this with inks. You can of course use coloured cardstock with this, and that will give you another whole host of different looks and different colour schemes. But I thought I would go through and use ink with you today, and I'm using the metallic inks. The one I have here, so I'll be making a version of this card. I haven't actually stuck this down yet, but I don't know if you'll be able to pick it up. Let me just put this against a white background. might be able to just pick up a slight sheen there. This is coloured all or entirely with the metallic inks. So I'll be doing that in a slightly different colourway for you today. Show you how that's built up. I'll also be using this set here, which gives us the, let's move that out of the way. So this smile set here, it's called You Make Me Smile Sentiments. So I'll put a slide up in a minute with all the details in a second. So this set in particular gives us some stamps. So we have the stamps here. So just single line sentiments, which are brilliant. You then have your dies which cut out those sentiments with a nice little rounded edge for you. And then you have the 3 layered dies, which you can use in any order. Obviously you'd use this die each time because it actually gives us the word smile, but then you can use either one or both of these layering dies to build this up into the 3-layer word. So I'll be using that here, and that's how I've created this word here. Again, this is with inks, the metallic inks. I don't know if you can, it's probably very tricky to pick up the sheen on that, but that's also done with the metallic inks here. And there's your sentiment there. So it's a lovely sweet little sentiment with a rounded edge, which is super neat. I love that. And then obviously we have this element in the background. I'll just take that away. We have this element in the background, which again is lovely. It can be built up in any number of ways, and that is using the stitched edge circle backgrounds here. Let's move that one. So this set comprises of the 2 inner circles. So you have the lattice set, which can be die cut in this way, or you have the zigzag set, of course. Now obviously you're going to have the inserts from each of these. So the inserts, you'd have lots of these tiny little squares which you can use as confetti, or if you use this one, you have these zigzags that you can keep and use. Now I know Lisa's brought out the composition cards where we have these zigzags on there. So if you don't have those yet and you love the effect, then you can, and you possibly have this one, then you can use these zigzags as well. But these are actually really nice element to keep. You may find a use for them on your card as well. Apologies for Hazel in the background. I think I've got a delivery. So there is any number of ways that you can cut out these dies to form all sorts of different combinations actually. So you can use the internal, the pattern set, and the outside double stitch die, and that's will give us this die. So you put these 2 dies together. You can create just a frame with this die where you use the double stitch die, the small one in between, so then we cut out the aperture like so. If you don't want to have the aperture, just die cut this on its own and you will get this combination, which again is a lovely frame and a lovely matte and layering component that you can use on your cards as is. Alternatively, again, you can have this piece here, but if you don't want to have the see-through element, then you can use the circle die, or that you can die cut just from this very thin one, and you can layer that behind. Now you can have the same color, and or also you could have a completely different color from behind, and that will give you lots of different combinations as well. So that's just a quick overview before I get crafting, just to sort of explain those the die sets to you. And then of course you can use those in any combination to create your card, which is what I have done here. And in the background, I will get crafting in a second. In the background, I've used the Wildflowers stencils. I haven't used the embossing folder on this one because that would have made the whole card look a bit too busy, just for because I really wanted to focus on the iris, but I wanted some sort of background, and I've just use the metallics, and you get a very, very faint sheen from the metallics, even though you've used them in a really subtle way in the background to create that really soft background. And if you notice, I haven't actually used the whole of the design here. I didn't want to have these extra little bits coming up. I just like the composition with these this lower level foliage, so I could build up the card around that. Now, when I came on, you would have seen the card built up in this way. There's any number of ways that you could build this. It's entirely up to you. So you could have it done this way. I like to have the flowers on the right hand side, but many of you would have the preference and build the flower on the other side. So of course you can do it that way round. You don't have to have the background in the back. If you've done a really nice stenciling in the background, really subtle, then it'd be nice just to build the card in that way. If you use the same colours in the background as you have done in your iris, the whole thing will just come together and coordinate beautifully. So you could even just build the card like this. You don't have to use this sentiment, you can use a different sentiment. So there's lots of different ways to actually build the card. I'm hoping the colour looks a bit too dark for me actually. Let me just see if I can brighten that up a little bit. That's a little bit better. There we are. Silly, isn't it? It's super bright outside and I've had to put the lights on inside. Anyway, I hope you can see that okay. So let's get going, shall we? Right, I'm going to do a slightly different colourway. This colourway, actually, before I continue, I'll just show you the colours here. I've used, the majority of the colours are Lovestruck and Ultraviolet. Again, these are the metallic pigment inks. And I've used Verdigris and Mojito for the foliage. So that's the colour palette that I've used on this particular card. The next card I'm doing, I thought I'd try a different colourway. I'm using the same colour for the foliage because I'm using the metallics and we have the two greens. But I'm also going to bring in Sunshine, Fool's Gold, Pumpkin, and possibly a little bit of the pink as well, just to see how we go. Okay. Who's that? Paints and Glitter. You use the interference inks like watercolour. Oh, they are amazing. Because even if you use them as a watercolour, you still get that interference ink, don't you? You still get the mica rising to the top, and it's a little bit more unpredictable. So it gives you that that shimmer and that shine as well. The interference inks are amazing. Actually, all of Lisa's inks are amazing. There's too much choice, to be honest. I've got these on my desk at the moment, so I'm definitely using these at the moment. But I did think this morning I'm missing using the blending inks. You know, the blending inks are so chalky and blendable that, yeah, I love using those too. Ah, am I working again? Are you all back with me? You're right, Maddie, it did happen last week, and I don't know why. I don't know why, because yeah, I'm assuming I'm back again because I can see myself on the screen. So I'm hoping back now. Oh, great. Thank you, Jean. Oh, Kathy, I don't know where I went, Kathy. I think I disappeared last week unbeknownst to myself, didn't I? I don't know. There's all I want to do is just sit and craft. Very strange. Like most things, if you come out and then go back in again, it somehow seems to figure itself out. I don't know why. Anyway, let's get going quickly before it happens again. Right. So as I was saying, I'm actually going to colour the cardstock before I die cut this time around. You can do it the other way around, but I thought I'd give it a go this time because I wanted to create a little bit of a, well, I'll just show you here the way I've done it here. So you can see the metallic on the green there here. So I just wanted to sort of create a background of colour. Then I could choose where I actually die cut from, because it gives you just that little bit more choice. So I'm going with a slightly peachier tones this time, so that's why I brought in the pumpkin. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to lay the ink down, and actually with the lights on here you can really see that metallic. Oh yeah, you can just about see that there. So this is a really nice way of doing it because it gives you the chance to pick and choose where you add your colour on the flower. Don't worry too much this stage if this looks really messy on the paper, because the beauty of this is that you'll die cut it out and you're not actually seeing the outcome of the paper. You know, it all comes together. So do trust the process. Now what you need to do, have your dies on hand. Let me just bring the dies in. Now this particular section, I'm going to create the flower. So have the flower on hand, and all you need to do is just colour the amount of cardstock that will allow you to die cut the flower. Basically, you can do more. If you wanted to do this, you can do something. It's I think it's called a masterboard type thing. You can do a whole sheet of either A4 or half an A4 sheet, all the same colour, and then you can die cut all your elements from that. But so this is just a smaller, more contained version of that. So I'm doing this per piece. So I wanted like a yellow and orange flower. You can see there that I've created enough of an ink area to die cut my flower, so I'm happy with that. Now the next element I want to do, where's all the little bits here, are all these little internal bits. So you can see that the bits that are yellow here, I think I'm going to do that yellow again on this one. So I'm going to pick that die that colours these areas here, and I'm just going to bring the yellow in and just create an area that is large enough and with enough colour for me to die cut out those, which is what I've done there. Now we have a tiny little die here, which cuts out the centre of the iris and the two little flower buds that you see there. Now I've done them in pink. This time around, I think I might do those in orange. Okay, so I'm doing a very different colourway this time. So it's going to be nice and orange, and I just want to create enough of a orange section there for me to layer those little dies there. Then there's a really lovely section which gives this the sort of dimension and some contouring on the flower here. Now I've stuck this in the center. You can stick it down fully, but you can bend this up actually if you don't stick it down fully, and this gives the iris just a little bit of dimension. So this one here I've done really pale, so I think what I might do, I'm going to do this really pale, oh I don't know what color. Actually, I've got fool's gold there. Let's do that. So slightly different tone. I've got fool's gold. I'm just picking up the brush and just seeing what colour ink I've got left on that brush. Now, I haven't got a huge amount of ink on there. So I'm going to take a little bit more, dab off the excess. Actually, I'll do it in the lid. Just dab off the excess and just, I don't want this too dark. So I'm going to dab off the excess there and actually run that down here, because what I'll do, although I'm not going to use this dark bit, it's enabled me to just spread that ink a little bit further down like so. And I think what I also might do is just put a little bit of yellow in that as well and just change that colour up a little bit. So when I lay this die down, there will be some yellow, sorry, there will be some white on this, but because this is going on a darker background, I don't want this part of the flower to be too dark. It'll all come together at the end. And as I say, when you are die cutting or with any of Lisa's things, the first time you do this, you be a little bit unsure, but the more that you use the dies, you'll get more familiar with how they layer. So I'm coming in now with the Mojito green, so you can probably just about see these colours in the top there. Let's just bring those down a little bit for you. There we are. Run out of a bit of space on there. Okay, so now I want obviously quite a lot of green, so I'll really load the brush with the green and then I can just start adding that down onto the cardstock. Now you can of course die cut all of the elements first from white cardstock and then you can colour them afterwards. I find sometimes I can be a little bit heavy-handed with the ink if I do it that way, and I don't always get the effect that I want. So doing it this way, it takes that need, or it takes that risk out of the equation. You can always go back in and add a little bit of shade in once you've die cut the elements, of course. So here now you see I'm just making sure that I've coloured enough of the green section to allow me to die cut those two elements. So at the moment I'm just using Mojito. I'm not too worried about it being a really nice smooth blend. I do just want to have a real concentration of colour on there. So I was disappearing off camera then, wasn't I? So I know that I've got enough of an area that I can die cut those out. But before I do that, I'm just going to come in with a little bit of Verdigris, just to add a little bit of shade in, a little bit of contouring, I suppose, to that colour, so it's not a flat green. Now I'm just adding the colour on. I'm not making sure it's a particular blend. Can't necessarily see it on screen, but that's added sort of real darker green areas to that, and it does give the leaves like a two-tone effect. So I can add those onto there now and I'll be able to die cut. Okay, now what I am going to do, I am going to die cut these all in one go because that will save a little bit of time. You can either use your desktop die cutter, or of course you can use Lisa's fabulous new one, which I do have now. I have Lisa's one sitting next to me, but I have to admit that I'm only using it for embossing. I'm only using it to emboss at the moment because it means that I don't ruin the plates. So I'm giving myself a real soft introduction into using it, and it's great so far. It embosses brilliantly. I'm not quite sure when I'll be brave enough to die cut with it, but I'll get there. But at the moment, I did not want to use it, or I didn't want to leave it there unused. So as I say, and if you're very much in the same position and you want to go into, you know, just soft launch into using it, just go with the embossing, I would say. So I'm just going to die cut this on my other embossing die cutting machine. Okay, so I bring that in now, and you'll see from the state of the plate that I am still using the old machine. So for no other reason than I'm just not ready to ruin the plates on these just yet. Okay, so now we can make sure that we take all the elements out of the dies. So the leaf one here actually gives us 3 lots of foliage. Oh, there we go. So we have, let me put them on here so you can see them. There we are. So we have the little leaf. Right. Let's put that up there, keep myself organised, put the dies over there. Okay, take those away. Okay. Perfect, so they're actually all left on there. So you can see now that when I take that flower actually away, that the colour that you was left on here, which perhaps didn't look quite as pretty, now looks lovely and gives you a completely random flower. So as I say, just trust the process when you're putting the ink down with, you know, you don't need to be too careful at all, but just look at how pretty the elements are now that we've die cut them out. And they should all work perfectly together. If you find that the colours aren't quite right, then obviously you can come in with your blending brushes or your sponges, depending on the ink that you're using, and just add a little bit of extra colour, or marker pens if you want to add a little bit of shading or some spots. Right, now don't forget these 2 tiny little pieces here. And it's actually really good that you do them in a brighter colour, because then you can see them. And then have your pokey tools to hand. Okay, so now let's get this put together. So it's actually quite straightforward, and you can see here actually this one, which looks a very strange colour to start with. It looks quite brown, but it should actually give a nice contrast against our background there of the flower. So I'm just going to swap camera. There we go. And I think if I can zoom in a little bit closer, let's see if I get this quite right. There we are. This should hopefully help you see as I'm building the flower now. Can we see that that is metallic? You can see, just about see the sheen on this. There you go. Really, really pretty. And I think the blend looks more lovely as it dries. So we start off with this. Now, what I will show you actually, before I continue, let's find my tweezers, that the markings on the flower here, that, let me, here we are. Yeah, you can see here, the center of the flower. Yeah, it corresponds to the shape on this particular layer here. So it gives you that clue of how to start building the flower. So that sort of triangle shape that you see there is the triangle shape that's in the middle of this flower here. So you layer those 2 together, and you can see that the plainness of this layer against the white really makes that stand out. So that's your first layer to go with. Actually, when these were first launched, we didn't have the metallic inks, and we didn't have these fine tip glues, glue pens either. So as Lisa has evolved and things have changed, we've now got the tools, which just makes this, for one, to put together a little bit easier because we've got the fine tip glue, and also to have lovely different effects on the flower as well. So if we go for this little bit here, it's another little triangle piece, and you can see that that sits in the center of the flower there. So a tiny little bit of glue. Now don't forget, you don't want too much glue, because when you put that down and press that on, that glue underneath will spread, and if you put too much on and when you push it together, you'll have the glue sort of squash out from underneath. So to prevent that happening, just put a tiny little bit of glue underneath. We have our little flower that we have, little accent piece that can sit here. Now, of course, you can also follow the packaging, because this will also give you the positioning for all the elements. So a tiny little bit of glue there. And you can add that down here. Now we have these tiny little yellow accents too, which I'm just going to put a tiny bit of glue on my paper and just dab those in like so. And we can add those into the side. I'm just going to push that into place with my tweezers like so. And I'll do the same with this one. Dab the glue into there and add that onto there. Okay, really pretty in these colours actually. So that's our flower built for you. Apologies if that is a little bit dark. It looks ever so dark on my screen. Hopefully you can really see those colours, because it's really, really bright and lovely. Okay, so next we need to concentrate on the stems. Now you could actually just use the flower as it is, but I'm going to bring in the stem. Now I find it easier to add the glue to the stem like this, and then place the flower on top. It just helps me position the flower a lot better. We have our coloured little pieces here, which are the flower buds. So if we just put those in position to start with, again, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add the glue. I don't want to cover this up. I'm going to add the glue to the front of these petals to start, like so. And then I'm going to lift the whole flower into position. So I'm going to pick up this left one first, and then just maneuver the stem around to pick up that petal on the, or the flower bud on the right hand side. Again, because I'm a little bit, I can be a little bit clumsy when I die cut like that. I just found that that's an easier way for me to add those petals without having to manipulate something really much smaller. Okay, so that's building lovely. So now we have our leaves. Now these you can add in any way that you like. I think I might add, let's start off with this one first. You can copy and go with what Lisa's done, or we can do something a little bit different. Actually, let's do something a little bit different. I normally follow what Lisa does on the packaging, to be honest, but let me just show you that you can go off piste a little bit and you can put your own spin on things. So I'm going to put this smaller leaf on that side. I'm going to work with this leaf. Let's put that a little bit further up than it would normally be. The good thing about this is that you can die cut this a couple of times, and then you can rearrange these leaves in lots of different ways, and basically you'll have different flower stems. So if you're going to create a little arrangement, then that would be a really nice way to just change it up a little bit. There we are, and I think I'll put that, yeah, and I'm going to add this leaf, probably too much glue just there. Let's take that off a little bit. There we are. I'm just going to add that into there. So I'm just going to release that from the cardstock underneath before the glue dries. There we are. We can leave that to one side. So we have basically the same flower, slightly different configuration with the leaves, but I think both works like that. So that's basically how quickly that flower comes together. It looks really complicated. It looks really beautiful, but it's so easy to put together. Okay, let's see. So what I might do now, I'm going to swap you back to the other camera. So we have both flowers sitting there. I actually really like that in the orange. That's really come together nicely. So I'm just going to put those on there because I want to use this piece to do my stenciling onto. Right, let's do that. Okay. So the layering I'm going to do is obviously back onto a peachy background here, which is, you can see, works with the colours of the flowers. So now I want to just do a little bit of stenciling into the background here. You can see on this one here just how delicate that I've done that. It just gives a really nice sort of subtle background in the coordinating colours of the flowers. So I can bring in my alternate for this. Move this out the way. I already have my matte and layer piece cut to size, so I'm working on to I think it's almost a 6 by 6 inch square card blank. This piece that I've cut here is about 14 centimeters square, I think, and it fits perfectly behind the stencils, as you can see. There we are. So I'm just going to line that up first, make sure that that is sitting square behind my stencil. Oh. Okay, sending my eyes funny. There we go. Okay, there we are. And just put that into position. There we are. So this new set actually is the Wildflower set. There's so many different ways to use this. It has 6 stencils. I'm using it really, really subtly today, just as a background, but in itself, you can just create a card with this and you don't need to add anything else to it really, but say I'm using this in a really subtle way in the background. So you can't see my inks now. Let me see if I can just move you out. Oh, wrong way. Move you out a little bit. There we are, and you can see the inks that I'm using here as well. So now I want to go with the same colours. I don't want anything too jarring. So I'm going to start with the pumpkin, I think. I'm not going to pick up any ink just yet. I'm just going to use what is left on the brush and just see where I start with that. Now, obviously, these are leaves. The majority of this wildflower set, let me just bring this in for you to see, is foliage. So when I'm creating the background for this, I'm going a little bit off piece, a little bit of artistic license, because normally these leaves would be green, of course, but so we're using it for a slightly different reason this time round. So these sets here, which I think Lisa was perhaps referring to as like eucalyptus leaves, and she's quite right. They're actually going to be orange on this, but we are allowed a little bit of artistic license. So I'm just coming in with my yellow brush. Again, I'm not picking up any ink, I'm just using what is left on there. And like Lisa's blending inks, which spread such a long way, the metallic inks are really very much the same. They dry a little bit quicker, I think. But when you finished a project, there's very much more ink left on the brushes than you would possibly imagine. So always, if you're wanting to do something subtle, just check them out first before picking up any ink from your ink pad. And you can see there that we've got a really lovely soft look, which if I bring that flower in, you can see that the whole thing is sort of really coordinated. And actually looking at that now that's dried, that flower, I can really see that metallic shining through. It's lovely. So stencil number 2, I'm not going to do the higher up foliage. I want to keep it everything a lot more grounded and on the lower half here. So again, I'm coming in with the green brush, really subtle. So hopefully you can, oh, you can just about see this. I mean, I do favour actually when I'm stenciling to go with the subtle colours, which isn't always the easiest for you to see on screen, but I just love the effect that it comes out with. So we've also got the flowers here, you can see them here. Now these look really bright and bold on this, and which is perfect, but again I do just want to go and keep this a little bit more subtle on this particular background. So I'm using the yellow. I've picked up a little bit more ink and I've just worked off the majority of that onto the stencil material before going in through the aperture, because I really don't want that to be too bold. And we've also got little flowers up here, so I'm going to do the same with these up here. So these are going to be really nice and subtle. So I'm just making sure that that's really worked in. Oh, and there's a tiny little one over here. Didn't see that there. There we are. Oh yeah, so hopefully you can see that. It is subtle, but say I want the flower to pop in the foreground mainly on this particular card. So now we have a little bit more foliage going on. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more ink. Just work the majority of that off first before I go into the aperture. Now I'm going to try and change the colour up on this a little bit. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put that really light background of green first. So this is the green, the metallic green, which is called the Mojito. Lovely colour. Lovely colour. So I'm just working that into the aperture first. And again, I'm not going to be stenciling this top foliage on this particular card. I will use this stencil again, and I will use it in its whole entirety and show you how beautiful it can be stenciled in a completely different way. But I just like it as a background at the moment for this. So what I'm doing now, over what I've just stenciled with a Mojito, I'm just coming in with a little bit of yellow because I just want to change up the shade of that green. And yellow is an ideal way to do that. So I'm not going too mad. So when I take that away, yeah, that green looks slightly different to the straight Mojito that I'd already added before. So, but it's still because I'm using the same colour palette as I had on the flower, everything should blend really nicely. So this is stencil number 4. So we can add some details into the leaves that we've had. Bear in mind, we don't need this detail at the top here. And I think what I might do, what might I do? I'm going to do this in yellow, I think. I think we're definitely going to come up yellow with the up here. And because this is these details are really slim, you could put perhaps a little bit heavier in the detail with the yellow, because it's not going to be too bold. I'm going to come in with the yellow on this one here as well. Just work that into there and also over here. And also, because this is the background, I'm not really fussed about the details being absolutely perfect. So if the blend isn't perfect through this, I'm not too worried. Again, all we're doing is just creating that subtle background. So although Lisa's stencils are absolutely amazing at being one-stop projects, you can stencil this, put it onto a card, and away you go. To actually get the most out of these as well, start working them into all of your different projects. So even if you'll just use elements of some of the stencils or do them subtly and just almost a distressed look in the background, again, they'll be working so hard for you that and it gives you a different perspective on the stencils as well. Yeah, use them in lots of different ways. So I'm just take that away. That is really subtle in the background. I really didn't want too much more than that. I don't think I need to use the last two stencils because I'm happy with the way that the flowers are looking just there. Again, if I was using this as the main focal point of the card, then I would have gone through all 6 layers, of course, but you don't always need to. And I think that can be not always an easy thing to remember. So there we are. We have our stenciled background just then. If I can just lift that up so you can see the details in there. It looks really subtle. As that dries, there will be an element of the metallic coming through that as well, even though it's really, really pale. And once we layer that onto the background, I think that really makes those colours pop. So I'm going to do that just now while I remember, and then we'll bring in the other elements. And this peach and this green really work nicely together. It's such a fresh colour combination. So now we can set our flower onto the front there, and you can see how everything all works because we've used the same colour palette. I can bring in the circle disc there and we can put that down. Perhaps layer our flower just off to the side. Perhaps we'll do that like so. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, what I thought I'd also show you is how we colour up the cardstock before we stamp the sentiment and before we die cut the sentiment. Now remember, our sentiment comes in 3 different layers. Okay, so we have our smile, which is what actually die cuts the word. So we need to, I've taken a piece of texture cardstock here actually, so this is the same as what I've just stenciled onto, and in much the same way as I did with the flowers, I'm just going to create a mix of the colours that I'm using onto the cardstock. Oh, let's just move that over here. So again, don't worry too much about what it looks like at this stage. It does all come together, but I'm just going to make sure that I just ink an area large enough so I can die cut. I'll add some green onto this one, I think. So just make sure I add enough ink so it covers the area that I'm going to die cut out with that word. So we can add that onto there. I think I might add a little bit more orange down this way. This way also it means that you're not wasting too much ink as well, to be honest, which again is another good thing. So I'm going to die cut that now. Now this ink dries quite quick. If you'd put on a lot of ink, or depending on the surface that you're working with, I would say just allow the ink to dry before you die cut it. You can put a heat tool on it, that would work. Okay, So when we take that out again, so just how pretty does that look? It looks far better die cut than it did than the words, the ink on the cardstock just there. So let's just take out that little area in there. Now also what we need to do is die cut the layers that go with this. Which I forgot to get the cardstock out for. So let's do that layer in the peach there, and we need possibly a darker colour. I need a darker colour for the final layer at the back, which I forgot to get, so bear with me. It's rustling in the background here just to cut a little piece of darker cardstock, so a little bit of more of a darker orange there, I think. Okay, so let's die cut these out, and I can show you how they go together. That's not going to go through there, so I might need to trim that down. There. Just so that it goes onto my plates like that. You don't have to use all 3 layers when you're layering up the word, but it does give a really nice effect. So that's that layer there. Let me layer those to so that's layer 1, layer 2, and a darker orange just to finish it all off for layer 3. There we are. So we can now build these up. I shall do this quickly for you. These small glue pens really are a game changer, aren't they? As long as you remember to put the lid on, they don't get blocked. They're so easy just to pick up and use. They really haven't failed me at all. The only time it doesn't work is when I forget to put the lid on, and I blame myself completely for that. But it makes using these smaller, intricate dies so much easier to glue and stick. And the glue control actually is a lot easier on most that I've used. There we are. How pretty is that? How lovely is that? And I can see now that the ink is drying that the shine is coming through on that word also, so we can add that onto there. And let me just show you how these sentiments work. Okay, so the sentiment stamps that we have on the Smile kit, which is this kit here. Oh, you can't see that. Which is this kit here. They are all on one plate, and they're designed to be. So don't. It would be advised not to separate them. So when you come to stamp with them, obviously you can use your stamping press, your Ultimate one, which has the lid on it. I'm just going to put these onto an acrylic block and stamp. But it's advised not to separate these stamps and stamp them all as one, because the dies that cut them out is just one die in itself. So each time you want a sentiment, you're basically stamping and die cutting all 5 of them. But what that does mean is that you'll end up with a good stock of dyes ready to use. And you can now see that that dye lines up brilliantly over the top, ready just to die cut them. So I'm just going to cut this down to size so that it goes through my machine. Bring this back up now, because we are being quite precise with our die cutting here. What I think is a good idea to do is just to secure your die in place before you die cut, like that. And then we can put that through. Okay. So when we lift that away, take the die off and the outside, and we're left with our 5 little sentiments, which are all very usable. Let's just take them off of there. And I am just going to use them as they are. So smile, it's your birthday, which is the one that I wanted on there. Oh, there we go. And now I have some more sentiments that I can pop in the envelope and use again a bit later on. So there we are. That's how that card came together. A completely different colorway to the one that we have here. Hopefully you found that useful. So if you don't have the iris die yet and you was wondering how that comes together, it's very straightforward, very easy. So we can layer that up like that, and we can have that one like that. But I've used quite a lot of elements. So there's three lots of Lisa's Spellbinders sets that have been used on there, all of which are on offer and pick of the week on Lisa's website at the moment. So they are all ready to use, as well as some Christmas ones as well. So if you're in Christmas mode, they're ready to with great offers as well. So I'll leave that with you there today. I hope you enjoyed that. Sorry for the little blip in the middle there. I'm not quite sure what happened there. If you do already have these dies, I'd love to see what you've made with them. Or if you do get them, then you can get making with them, and then we can see what you make. But if you do need any help, also do come into the group and we can just help you out. Either myself or any one of the design team, or even the rest of the group members on there as well. There's already somebody ready to help for you. So thanks so much. I'm just looking at all the different names here. There's quite a few different names that I don't see, so it's lovely to have you join me. Hopefully you can join me again next week. It's Deanna. Don't worry, Deanna, all the lives are actually saved on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube channel, most of you are watching on YouTube, I can see, which is great. So you can just click back in under the live section, and all the videos that have been live are all saved. So that live section isn't just for something that's going live at that particular time. Let's say it really does mean that all the lives indefinitely are saved, so you can go back and watch anything for reference point. It's really nice to be able to build up this library of sets and all the Lisa's releases, so you can go back to and refer to them at any time. Right, so I love you and leave you. Thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Take care.